and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel tonight, guys, where I have only 2 words for you. Marcus Rashford. Oh, wow. What a moment for him. Not only tonight does he score his first ever Barcelona goals, but that second strike, I think I'm still recovering. It was absolutely electric. And for me tonight, this was a big game. This was a big occasion for Barca. We needed to step up. We needed to make sure that we arrived and handled the atmosphere. And Newcastle tonight, they attempted to spring a big surprise upon Barca. But in the end, their attempt rather crashed and burned. It's Marcus Rashford at the double, and we have to talk about everything that we saw, that we witnessed tonight, from what was a true away European performance. It's all on the way, guys. I really enjoyed that one. So let's do this. Because the first thing that you absolutely have to say is, look at the scenes that we saw just before kickoff, when the players there emerging from the tunnel, and you look around at this stadium. We expected a big atmosphere tonight, but that was an absolute cathedral, a cauldron of noise inside of St. James's Park, and it felt like a massive game. And it may only be match day 1 in the Champions League phase. Of course, this isn't knockout football yet, but it felt like that kind of game. It felt like a game tonight where, okay, the pressure's on Barca. This is not an easy place to go. We've seen teams already come here this season, Liverpool, for example, and really struggled. They were under the cosh for much of that game. They ended up just about winning, but it is a tough stadium. It's a tough team to face. And I believe the way we played tonight, we can learn a lot from that performance. We can take a lot of confidence, a lot of belief in the fact that we've come here. And I still don't think we've played at our best. And we have still won. We have still conquered the stadium in the end. And it was a big statement from Barca. I think it was a game where we had to show a bit of backbone. We had to show that actually we can do different kinds of things. We didn't dominate the game in large periods, and it wasn't all in Newcastle's half. At times it opened up a bit, but we were able to cope with different kind of situations, different kinds of scenarios in this game that should help us build confidence here for a big Champions League campaign. And I think if we do look right here at the starting lineup that we saw from Hansi Flick, and there were some very big decisions in there. For example, what we saw at the back, we knew that Gerard Martin would have to come in place of Alejandro Balde. We know that Kubasi was going to start. Koundé on the right-hand side. Araujo came in. How well did he do? I thought there were several performances there in that back line that really did stand out. That in the tough moments and difficult moments there, they really did help us to just keep Newcastle at arm's length. We're going to talk about the midfield with Pedri and De Jong. Rashford alongside Fermin, Rafinha and Lewandowski back in the starting lineup, leading the line. And I've got to say with Lewandowski tonight, especially in that first half, he was kicked from pillar to post. Newcastle were allowed, I believe, by the referee here to get away with a lot of those kinds of challenges that did make it a really physical encounter at times. And Lewandowski was saying, at different points of the game, that's 4 different times that I'm getting a knee in the back. I'm getting absolutely clattered from behind. But like I say, we dealt with these kinds of challenges, these kinds of obstacles, and in the end, we overcame it in the absolute best way possible. However, guys, what we have to acknowledge here, before we talk about the goals, before we talk about the real game-changing moments in the second half of this game, can we talk about the one man that kept all of that alive, that actually made those moments possible? It was Joan García. Because quite honestly, in that first half there, Newcastle were causing Barca problems. They started the game very quickly. They were really penning us in those opening minutes of the game. Alanga was getting a lot of joy down that right-hand side. Gerard Martin at times was struggling to deal with him. And there was a massive chance that arrived to Harvey Barnes. And I think we all thought it was in. That ball comes across the penalty area. He's in an absolutely perfect position there. That looks like a certain goal. And this is the difference between having a goalkeeper now who can save you, who when the defence is not there, when your team is desperately in need of being bailed out by somebody, your goalkeeper stands tall. Now, this was his Champions League debut. Can we remember that? His Champions League debut. he was phenomenal. I mean, this save, the way that he makes up the ground there, the way that he really just changed direction, gets across to the near post, is an absolutely wonderful save from Joan García. And that is what you want in your goalkeeper. Because I tell you what, if we concede then, if that is a goal, and if it goes in, you say, oh, well, the goalkeeper, nothing he could do. He does something there that you don't expect. He pulls off a save that really does help his team. But if that goes in, you are up against it, because then the Newcastle fans, they found their voice in full again. Newcastle are on a high, they're feeling confident, and the game could go a whole different way. If Joan García did not make that big save, this is an entirely different game. So for him tonight, he was so good, he was so commanding there. Lots of crosses we saw long throws coming into the box as well from Newcastle. They threw everything at us aerially, and Joan García, he was claiming crosses, he was making sure there to save everything. Everything that came near him, he was a calming influence, and that is refreshing, that is big, and that is something we didn't have last season in the Champions League. It's something that we haven't had in goal, in my opinion, for several seasons now. He brings it, and in abundance. What a goalkeeper! But I think there's plenty more that we have to acknowledge as well, because I would look at Araujo, I would look at Kubasi, I would look at Koundé. I think all of those across the back line there. Martin at times, like I say, did struggle a little bit, but I thought Kubasi, Araujo, Koundé, they're winning their duels, they're winning those individual battles aerially as well. Araujo came in, you could see exactly why he was in there. He was a strong presence in the air, and that was exactly what we needed. But can we talk about midfield? Can we talk about the fact that Pedri and Frenkie de Jong in that midfield, they controlled everything? And yeah, Barca didn't always have the ball. We weren't able to always dominate there in Newcastle's half, for example. But whenever Pedri and Frenkie got the ball, how well did they use it? How well did they manage it there? In terms of Newcastle, they were pressing very, very high tonight. They were really swarming around Barca. But every time that Frenkie and Pedri received those balls there, they were so good in terms of protecting it, moving it on, picking out the passes there into space for Rashford, into Rafinha, into Lewandowski, chip passes as well that we saw tonight. And I just thought those two in midfield, they were a different class, they were a different level. Newcastle didn't really know how to phase them. At the end of the day, they were trying to pressure them, they were trying to be rough with them, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that they could do. Pedri was just pirouetting away from them. He was laughing in their face at times almost. Frenkie as well, he's got the physical stature to go with it too. He can protect the ball with his body, and Newcastle did not find a way to panic Barca in that midfield today, and that is important for big European nights, big European away games. There will be times when you've got to calm things down, when you've got to take the pressure off your back four. The midfield did that tonight, and they also added to our attacking threat. But okay, guys, let's move on to Marcus Rashford. Let's talk about Marcus Rashford, because honestly, in the first half there, I thought he was lively in the way that he was very involved. He had one moment where he left Trippier behind. He dummied the ball. He ran the whole length of the pitch there, but didn't quite get the finish right. And I thought he was very much involved. He was actually finding quite a bit of space in the game, but maybe things weren't quite clicking again. And I have to say, I was looking at halftime on social media. There was a bit of criticism of him. There was a few people saying, look, we need more from Rashford. He needs to do more in this game. And well, in the second half, I think he did that. I think Rashford came out and thought, you know what, I'm just going to silence everybody. Because obviously inside the stadium there, he got a bit of booze. Tuchel was in the crowd watching on. He didn't actually seem too happy for some reason when Rashford scored. England seems to want him to fail at times. It almost seems like, the media certainly. And he wanted to right those wrongs. He wanted to show them exactly what he was made of. And boy, did he do that there. You look at the first goal, Koundé over on the right-hand side. It's a great ball in by him. He's picked out Rashford. He's in a central area. It's a really, really good cross in. But in this moment, Rashford has to generate everything on this ball. There's not a huge amount of pace on it there when it's whipped in. But boy, does he do well. This is an absolutely world-class header because he's in that central position. He's quite far from goal. He generates the power and it's about the placement. And the way that this ball here, it flies past the goalkeeper. He's got absolutely no chance of saving that there. It's in the bottom corner. And what a massive moment that is for Rashford to score his first Barcelona goal in that moment of the game too, because at that point it could have gone either way. Newcastle were having a few chances. I think Barca, as the game went on, we grew more and more into the game. We felt more and more comfortable maybe in our surroundings, but I just thought that was such a massive moment for him there. You see the celebration, the passion in him, the energy as well. He was so desperate for that kind of moment, and you almost felt him start to feel better, him start to feel more and more more confident. Okay, I've got my first goal. I can feel it now in myself. I know what I can do. I've got the ability to pick up the ball and make things happen. And he was starting as well to pick it up in more central areas, get closer to the goal, start to be more direct in his play. And the second goal, I still haven't gotten over it. I don't think anybody has. When he scored that goal, I'm sure that you were with me, I was stunned. Absolutely stunned. In fact, myself and my girlfriend, we stood up. We leapt up from the sofa. I was doing the Rashford celebration. I don't know if you guys were doing the same. I'm doing the Rashford now because I can't believe it. I had my grandmother on the phone. She was saying, wow, this is unbelievable. I know. It's incredible. It is absolute genius. He picks it up and smashes it. He absolutely rockets this ball into the back of the net, and it couldn't have been any more perfect, because the beautiful thing about this goal is, as soon as he hit that, you just had a feeling. You just had a sense of, wow, he has struck that perfectly. And the way that it just goes into the net, it goes in off the bar, it looks unbelievable. And I think at the end of the season, that is still going to be right up there for one of the goals of the season from Barca. Rashford for me in that moment, what must he have felt like? Okay, I'm here now. I have arrived. This is a man who struggled for confidence. He has struggled to feel at home. He has struggled to feel supported, by his club, by those people around him. He wants to feel somewhere like he's at home again. And he has found that here at Barca. He's come in, he's been working hard, he's been looking to improve every single game. Flick has put an awful lot of trust in him here. He started him again on a big Champions League away game. And he made the difference. And at the end of the day, that's why we signed him. People can talk about his overall performance. Maybe at times it's not always perfect. He might give away a few balls here and there. But at the end of the day, if he's capable of doing that, you will take that deal. That is something we didn't have last season. If we was missing Lamine Yamal last season, you're looking around, who's going to step up? If Rafinha doesn't score, if Lewandowski doesn't score, who is going to score? Firmino wasn't able to do that tonight. Ferran wasn't either. Who is it going to be? Well, tonight it was Rashford. Tonight it was Rashford who made sure, I will impact this game. I will do something. And two completely different kinds of goals. The first goal, you look at it, it's a number 9 kind of goal. The second goal, that's just world class. That is quite simply sensational. And this is a big moment for him. He can certainly now go on from here. He can take strides. He can have so much belief in what he's doing, because tonight he's won the game for us. Tonight his goals have been the difference, and there is no greater compliment. There is no greater feeling than that for him. Marcus Rashford, you beauty! And admittedly, obviously, as the game went on, I think maybe we got a little bit too comfortable. Personally for me, at 2-0 up, given the way the game had gone, I think Newcastle looked completely flat, and understandably so, after that second Rashford goal. But of course they did get one right at the very end there. A goal to get them back in the game, and it was quite a nervy final few minutes of the game. The referee added on 7 minutes, turned into 8 minutes, sort of thought, well, are we just going to play until Newcastle score? But yeah, we got through all of that. I would have liked to have left this game tonight with a clean sheet. I think we would have deserved it with the way that we looked to defend and the way we did actually handle so many of their threats tonight. But obviously, there are still things that we can improve. Barca will play better than this. Make no mistake about that. There's still a lot of levels here that we can go to. But it's very important to have these foundations, to start laying them now early in the season and just build confidence. This is a really, really good away win. Going to a Premier League team like this in that kind of atmosphere, a physical game, a battle, without so many, don't forget, of our key players. And can I also just say, guys, it's been a funny kind of night. I'm just glad tonight that we kept this man quiet. I am glad that he was not able to produce the quality that we know he can. But in all seriousness, guys, I want to know how you're feeling. I need to know right now what is running through your body, the emotions. Tell me how you felt when that second Rashford goal went in, when that ball struck the net, when he absolutely cannoned it in. What was your reaction? How did you feel? How are you feeling now? What a moment. These are the moments that we live for. These are the moments that, following this team, feeling every moment, it's all worth it, isn't it? What a goal. What a win. And we have kicked off our Champions League campaign in some style tonight. We'll be talking lots more. There's lots more here to come on the channel. But thank you, guys. And make sure that you enjoy this one. I will see all of you soon, but until next time, as always, Veshka, El Barca.